Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Tuesday morning, and that's November the 8th. I'm glad to be here. Hopefully I'm streaming. I'm having problems with my computer here this morning and with the internet. And so hopefully you can hear me and I'm streaming properly and everything. So I did pop the chat room open, so that's open there now. And I'm just sending out a little reminder that the show is started. Thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate it. You know, we'll be on for half an hour. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com, and we're talking about the inner child healing work, and really from a website called Soul Expressions Youth Recovery, and it's from Becky. She's written a whole lot of stuff there about mainly dealing with sexual abuse, child sexual abuse, CSA, and whatnot, and lots and lots of information there. So hopefully people will check that out and take a look at what she has there. She's a therapist, she's a counselor, and she's a survivor herself. So she knows, firsthand, how hard it is for people who have suffered, and child sexual abuse or sexual abuse of any kind, really. And her website is mainly geared for women. That's what it sort of looks like to me. But we all know, even she said on there that, we know that men are victimized as well. And boys, right? So it's not just limited to women and to girls, right? To females. So it's a huge issue. And so I don't think her website is really just all for women, even though it sort of seems like it's geared for women. The information on there is good, for anybody who's a survivor of CSA or incest or anything like that, or sexual abuse, right? Domestic violence and whatnot. Great information, and so hopefully you'll get something out of it. I know that all this information is helping me in my journey. And so, hopefully it's helping somebody else too. So I'm just going to get right back into where we left off, and that was looking at the inner child healing process. So we're just sort of looking through what she had to say about the inner child. And yesterday we were looking at the Gestalt method that she was talking about, which is quite, I guess, sort of popular and sort of known in the circle of healing and therapy and, counselors and therapists and psychotherapists and whatnot. I've never actually done I didn't realize that it was called the Gestalt method in the first place of, the inner child healing work. But I had been doing that all along, really, just because of what John Bradshaw's book, Homecoming, Reclaiming and Healing Your Inner Child, as well as some other stuff that I had seen out there from Robert Burney, Codependence, The Dance of Wounded Souls, and other people, right? So sort of learning along the way, doing self-help, right? So I had been doing the Gestalt method, really, except for in a little bit different way as far as rescuing my inner children and, allowing myself to see that I'm okay now and that I'm not, that no one can, that those people, my abusers, cannot hurt me anymore, And so that's sort of what she was talking about yesterday. That's what we were looking at. And, so you have to listen at your own discretion to all of my shows. I'm talking about abuse. I'm not a counselor or therapist. I'm just a private citizen paying to do my shows here on Blog Talk Radio. And I'm just a survivor, and I'm just wanted to be one more voice speaking out against child abuse and standing up for child rights with my shows, child abuse prevention is up to us and whatnot. And this show really is my in the morning is my healing journey, right? So I found it very helpful for me to, to talk about this stuff and make sense of it, and allow myself to feel what I need to feel. And in the meantime, hopefully, there's other survivors that are, getting something out of this, at least to see that there's hope and not to give up. You know what I mean? It's so important. And I know I look to people in front of me, who have been there, done the healing work and through their process, and they're saying the same thing to me. They're just saying you can do it, and don't give up and keep going. And so it's very important to have that type of support. Mentors and people in front of us saying, you can do it. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And also, this is my healing journey here in the morning. So I was hoping that my process, would help somebody else to see that it is a process. It's taken me as long as it's taken me to get here today, where I'm at right here this morning. So it hasn't been easy. It's not an easy road. It's never easy dealing with this stuff. And that's why some people just can't do it self-help. And even though I'm doing my stuff self-help without the aid of a therapist or a counselor, I'm not really on my own. I have a lot of friends who are supporting me through this, Jipwitch being one of them. And she's my good friend from Australia and my best mate. And so you know, she's really helping me out. Like she's worked with survivors for many, many years. and worked with people with DID and in dissociative disorder and different things like that, PTSD and survivors of abuse. So she's she's been helping me through this. But not only that, but she's just here to support me. So I'm not really on my own. You know what I mean? It's just that I'm doing stuff without being in care. You know what I mean? As far as a therapist or counselor goes. But it's just important to get help. Where you can. And that's what I think, you know what I mean? Like, what if you need a counselor or you need a therapist or, then that's what you need. There's no shame in it, you know what I mean? Like, we just need to get help. So you have to listen to my shows at your own discretion and be aware that I'm talking about abuse in every single one of them. And, if the topics of abuse might bother you, then you need to turn the show off, right? Make a good choice for yourself. And young people under the age of 18, I ask that you have permission to listen to my shows because my shows are not for younger children, and they're definitely not for small children. If you're under 18 years old or 18 and under, you need to have an adult listen to the show with you, and they can help you make a decision whether you should be listening or not. It's really important, and to learn how to keep yourself safe online, right? And so yeah, we'll get right into this topic here this morning. I want to sort of just scroll down where we left off, talking about where Becky, the creator of this website, SoulExpressionsAbuseRecovery.com, she was talking about the fact that all these inner children inside of her were running her life, making her decisions, And I mean, that's what John Bradshaw's talking about. That's what Robert Burney's talking about. That's what a lot of people are talking about that have studied, the issues that, so many survivors will have. And that is the fact that we're letting our wounded children from the past run our lives, And that's what they call these inner children. But, when you think about it, it just makes sense. I mean, obviously I was wounded as a child, and so these places where I was wounded set up these behavioral patterns and ways of thinking. So obviously I couldn't trust my parents, and I couldn't trust some of my siblings. Actually, I didn't trust any of my siblings. And none of my family, period. I really developed a sense of insecurity in the fact that I couldn't trust anybody. And so I had a few close friends that I could trust, and I thought, well, I can trust these guys. These are my friends. And that was it. So I didn't trust really authority. I didn't trust authoritative figures. I didn't trust teachers. I didn't trust anybody. You know what I mean? Just my few close friends. So it set me up for a world of, okay, can't trust anybody. Everybody's out to get, it sort of sets you up to feel like a victim all the time. Like as if everybody's out to get you sort of thing. And especially if you make poor choices as a young adult, which I did make, some pretty poor choices for myself, and which is understandable, seeing that nobody really was guiding me through the process of learning how to take care of myself and learning how to be good to myself. So I started doing drugs when I was 12 years old, and really I needed something to so that I could not feel the pain so much. You know what I mean? So I could feel numb. So I was basically just numbing out as a young person, and and also it was a self-destructive thing. I was happy to continue and carry on the work that my parents had started, and that's why I did the drugs a lot. That was part of the reason, was that I was like, you know what, you want to mess my life up, you want to screw my body up, you want to screw my mind up, and you want to screw with my heart. I'll show you what I can do, And so I just was on this self-destruct for many, many years until I hit 21, which I was very. I think that was a great decision that I made. It was very good at the age of 21 to quit doing drugs. But really the reason that I quit doing drugs at the age of 21, there was a couple of reasons for it. I really wanted to live a normal life, and I knew that it wasn't going to happen if I was hanging around with the violent, drug culture that I was hanging around with, which were my good friends who were all abused. It was horrible. But also because my brother killed himself, and he was a cocaine addict, and I knew that, and we all knew that. He had been trying to kill himself for years. He was the one that sexually assaulted me and sexually used me. But, I thought I'm heading the same way. I'm going to end up dead from a drug overdose. I'm going to kill myself, or, one of those things will take me out. And so I decided to get off the drugs, and I made a good decision for myself there. And so, I've been drug free except for, cigarettes really, for the rest of my life, which is great. And I don't really drink, you know what I mean? Like I'm just drink coffee, but my cigarettes are something I'm trying to quit. But the thing is, we got to make these good decisions for ourselves. But when we're not set up to as children, we're letting these little inner children run our lives, whether it's through addictions, whether it's through relationship problems, if the inability to have intimate relations with anybody, as far as even a friend and a good friend, or just not trusting anybody. These are all things that we learn from our childhoods, especially if they were dysfunctional and abusive and not healthy, right? Even if they weren't all that abusive, but just not healthy, it can cause lots of problems with children. So then these inner children that we were so long ago, the decisions that we're making today are based on the wounding from so long ago. So that's what this inner child stuff really, I think, is all about. And it's just getting in touch with ourselves again. People look at it and think, well, I don't know. There's a bit of stigma surrounding this type of stuff. When people say, well, I have this internal voice in my head, right? People think that that it could be these other voices. Actually, it's just these internal messages that I got from my mother, mainly, of her screaming and ranting and raving at me, calling me names. That's what sticks with me, and I think it's because I heard them so often, and they repeated in my brain so much, and it's coupled with beatings, physical beatings, so they really stuck. You know what I mean? And just knowing her attitude, like I know, like what she thought of me. Like it wasn't something I guessed at or had to guess at. Like, does my mom really think, does she really feel this way about me? Or, it wasn't that vague. She was in my face telling me she hated my guts and she wished I was dead, and I should have died with the other babies that were stillborn and all this stuff. And that I was a whore and I was a cunt and I was a harlot and I was a slut and I was all these things. I was all these horrible things, which I wasn't. And just this horrible stuff that she would tell me on a regular basis. I was a rotten kid, and this is when I was growing up as a small child. She would tell me this stuff. And I mean, some of the words I didn't even know what they meant, but it's the way that she told me and the way she was screaming at me and the way she was beating on me. I thought, well, this is bad. Obviously, it's bad. Then when I got older and I realized what she was calling me, I was like, there's no way I'm a whore. I won't even let a guy touch me. There's no way I could possibly be a slut. I can't even let a guy touch me. A guy touches me and I end up kicking their butt. You know what I mean? I didn't allow anybody to touch me. I didn't want anybody touching my body, and that's from being abused as a child. And so my mother was calling me these names, and I thought, she was calling me those names since I was a young child, and that's because, I believe that, first of all, those were some of her choice favorite words to call people, but also, or her children, but also because I was, my brother sexually used me when I was 8 years old, and I think my mother blamed me for that. So many times parents will do that. They'll blame the child instead of blaming the perpetrator, whoever the perpetrator is, especially when it's sibling incest. My brother was 21 years old. I mean, come on. He knew better, you know what I mean? He knew what he was doing was wrong. He literally gagged me and bound me, and he tied my hands up and tied my hands behind my arms and bound and actually put a gag in my mouth because I bit him when I bit him one night when he was molesting me. So he didn't want me to bite him again. He didn't want me to scream, so he bound and gagged me and he raped me and he sodomized me and he hurt me. And my mother blamed me for that. Like, how could you do that? I was 8 years old, Wasn't thinking about sex or anything else like that. My dad had been raping my mother for years. I knew really what sex was because my dad had been raping my mother for years, right? So I grew up in that hellhole. My dad raped my mother in front of me one time, so I knew the sex to me was bad. You know what I mean? It was something that, I didn't want any part of, And so it really, my whole life, you know what I mean? Because of that, the damage done, So these are these inner children, that are so wounded, that are making the choices and decisions for me along the path in my adult life. And I have to change that around. I have to say, I have to sit down and get in touch with these inner places of myself that were so wounded and say, you know what? I'm going to make adult decisions based on my life now, not based on the fears and the trauma from the past. So really, it's not about like some people sort of associate people that have inner children or whatever is still with the stigma of they must be crazy or things like this, and that's such a stigma. You know what I mean? It's just another way to talk about these inner parts of ourselves, right? These inner children. Of course, if you were wounded as a child, then it's when you were a child that this trauma occurred, these woundings occurred, and so that's the places where we get stuck, and we have a hard time moving past them. A lot of people do. Some people don't. Some people just move right on by, and other people get stuck, and I know for sure that I was stuck for so long because I could look back and I could remember how I felt as a child. I could remember these. I had a lot of flashbacks and a lot of memories, body memories and flashbacks and whatnot, and just the damage done, scarring on the brain really is what it was. So I'm working on going back in and getting a hold of my inner children and saying, you know what, it's okay, we're safe now. They can't hurt you. And I mean, I can literally picture myself at these different ages, and I'm not even wearing, obviously not wearing the same clothes. Like, my 10-year-old's wearing something different than the 8-year-old, and the 8-year-old was in a different place than the 10-year-old was. I mean, obviously, and these inner children, these are the parts of me that were so wounded as a child, and this is where I write from. This is where my anger comes from. This is where my advocacy work comes from. This is it's not all bad stuff. My fight to live comes from my 10-year-old. My 10-year-old is because she wanted to die. Because when I was 10 years old, I was telling my mother to go ahead and kill me. I was like, just go ahead and kill me. I don't care. One more blow, you'd be helping me out. You'd be taking me out of this misery of an existence that I hated what my mother was doing to me, and I hated what my brother had done to me, a year and a half before. And I really was having a hard time coping at the age of 10. I wasn't suicidal, like I wasn't trying to, at that point I wasn't trying to kill myself, but what I did do was internalize a lot of rage and a lot of anger, and then began to self-destruct slowly after that, like around 12, 13, 14. I remember that my mind was completely self-destructed, you know what I mean? Like I didn't have any love in my heart for anything. I didn't care about myself. I didn't care about my body. I didn't care if I got so high and passed out on the street and got hit by a car. I didn't care if I died. I didn't care at all about anything. Like I had really lost. I feel like my soul was lost, from 10 years old on. And that's where I realized the damage done, you know what I mean, was like, whoa, my parents killed me. They literally, and my brother literally killed me. Spiritually, not physically, but that's why I was telling my mother, go ahead and kill me. I don't care. I'm dead anyway. So that repeated throughout my life as I entered into some serious drug use and drug addiction and hanging around with heavy-duty drug users and criminals. And I, having guns to my head and stuff. And I'd be like, I don't care if you shoot me. What are you going to do? You can't kill me. I'm already dead. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead, Like I ended up in some really serious situations where I was in a truck with a truck driver, locked the doors and wouldn't let me out. And he's like, I'm going to rape you. And he says, well, what are you going to do if I rape you? I said, well, I'll kill you, I said, because I'm already dead, it really doesn't matter to me, so I'll just kill you. And he actually let me out of his truck. That was amazing. But, I was just in some serious situations and having my life threatened by my friend's boyfriend because I was trying to protect her, which is quite often the case in domestic violence situations. Especially when it's that violent. My friend's boyfriend conceived me as a threat, which was because I was protecting my friend, and threatened my life a couple of times. And I told him, I said, go ahead and kill me. You can't kill me because I'm already dead. And I was already, this had been going on since I was 10 years old, and 10 years later, at the age of 20, I was still saying the same things. That's 10 years of hell and just being dead, that's these inner children from so long ago that are still part of my life, even though as an adult, I'm like, hey, I can make good choices for myself. I can learn to live, this is what I'm doing right now. And I can learn to have a good life, and I can enjoy things, and I have good friends, and I've had some great experiences in my life, actually, looking back at my old, like my adult life, I've actually had some great experiences, and it's not all bad, right? But my inner children think it's all bad. The inner child part of myself, this wounded stuff, thinks that it's all bad, and they haven't caught up to where I'm at today, because they're still sitting in that bad, dark place, and so that's why I'm going in and I'm doing inner child healing work, because I need to convince myself from so long ago that I'm okay. Things are okay. I'm looking after things, and my abusers can no longer hurt me. My mother's dead. She cannot come back and hurt me. My dad cannot hurt me. He's an old man. And he's in a senior's place, and he can't even, there's nothing he can do. He can't hurt me. And my sibling, my brother, he's dead. He killed himself at the age of 33. He can't come back and hurt me. My abusers cannot hurt me anymore. So this is what I'm trying to work with my inner children, to let them know that, hey, you know what? no one can ever do that to you again, and we're safe. And so basically setting myself up to feel that the world is to feel that the world is a good place, and having to go back and sort of redo, and set up a better world for these wounded children that I was so long ago, right? Because there's no way I can undo the past, right? That's done. But I just need to now, gather myself together as a whole and say, you know what, it's okay, like it's okay. I can do this. And sure, it's just going, there's going to be times when it's hard. There's going to be days when it's hard. There's going to be nights when it's hard, And but that's life. Life throws curveballs at everybody all the time. That's what I would just call them curveballs, but it's so true, Like my sweetheart's terminally ill. He's been terminally ill for like 11 years. He's still here, And every day, it's like, well, when he goes, he goes. I can't control that. I can't control this disease that's killing his body, There's nothing I can do. That's completely out of my control. So basically what I had to do was submit that control and say, you know what? That control does not belong to me. I don't have any control over that. So what I have to do is enjoy the days that he's here and not be obsessing about how many days he has left, And that's a balance. It's a true balance to be able to do that. And it's the same with me. My body, my physical body is not all that great a shape, Just too much damage to my hips and too much damage to my body, really, from being abused and from the rape and from being sexually used as a child, from my dad, actually beating the crap out of me and hurting my brain, actually putting my hip out of place, circulation problems, major circulation problems, and heart problems and all kinds of problems. You know what I mean, physically, but still, you know what? I'm still here, right? And I can make better choices for myself. I can quit smoking. I can eat healthier. I can learn to take care of myself, right? This is all stuff I have to learn how to do because I wasn't shown how to do this stuff. And when I was younger, didn't care if I lived or died. So I did a lot of damage to my body through drug abuse, which didn't help things, right? I think it helped me stay alive, but it certainly didn't help my body. And, so these things, I can make better choices for myself, And we can't control everything, So I have to, my little inner children from growing up in that home that I grew up in, they think the world is just some sort of chaotic crisis, because that's the way my life was. It was a chaotic crisis. It wasn't like there was, whole like years of good times and then 1 year of bad times. That's why I write my books. I write my story because I want people to know what abused children who are systematically destroyed will go through, And it's very important for people to realize this. This wasn't abused for 6 months and everything was great. Or, everything was great for 10 years, then abused for 6 months, and then everything was great. This was like a lifetime of hell, from day one, of having to try to figure out, okay, what is right? Dad's raping mom, dad's beating on the brothers, mom's beating on me. This is how I'm growing up. Is this normal? And then going to friends' homes and seeing, a totally different picture. It's like, hey, their dad's not raping their mother. At least it doesn't appear to be that way. And you know what I mean? Like their mother's not beating on the children, and everybody seems to love each other. It's great. They all eat dinner together. Oh my God. Yeah, and it was a totally different. I was able to see the difference, and my siblings and I, when we were younger, used to talk about that. And growing up the way that I did, it's really no wonder that was warped. You know what I mean? That my sense of life was warped, right? So I've had to go back and redo the whole thing. You know what I mean? And it's been a long process. Obviously, I'm nearly 46 years old. It's taken me a long time. But the miracle is that I didn't kill myself. Like, that's the miracle, because I was so close so many times that I'm like, I'm thankful that I made the right choice and stuck around, And so that's why I try to encourage other people to do the same thing. You know what I mean? Make the right choice and stick around, get some help. That's the sane thing to do. The insane thing to do is to allow yourself to hurt yourself. That's the insane thing to do. The insane thing to do is to allow other people to hurt you. That's insane. That's not right. And it never was right, right? It wasn't right for my parents to hurt me. It wasn't right for my brother to hurt me, And then it wasn't right for me to hurt me, right? None of that stuff was okay. It wasn't okay at all, right? And yet I'm here having to pick up the pieces from it. And, you know, my own stuff, I can take the blame for my own stuff. But the other stuff is not my fault. You know what I mean? And yet I'm paying the price for it. And this is why I speak out against child abuse, because these kids out here today, you know, we all know, are going to have to do the same exact thing. And some of them won't make it, you know. And some of them will just become abusers, and some will carry on the cycle, and some will perpetuate the abuse, and some will allow themselves to be abused. And you know, I'm glad that I came out of this sane. I really am. Because, you know, a lot of people, you know, it's hard. It's hard to actually be sane in an insane situation, you know. And it's a good feeling to be able to say, you know what, thank God, like I made it through with my sanity, because it was insane, you know, living in that environment. And that's why my sister's in denial, because she can't handle the reality of it. Whereas I just took the reality on full head on and said, you know what, it's the reality, it's what it is, I got to face it, I got to deal with it, I got to put it in its proper place, you know, so that I can go on and be a sane adult human being here on the planet, get some help, you know, do whatever I can to help other people, whatever I decide to do with my adult life, but whatever it is, it's going to be healthy. Mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, physically healthy, you know, like, because, you know, I had enough, you know, enough of self-abuse, enough of being abused, enough of allowing my inner children to keep me on this spiraling, you know, journey of destruction, you know, because that's what they knew. They knew all about destruction, my inner children, myself from so long ago, 5 years old, 6 years old, cognitively, you know, understanding what was going on in my home. You know, like my parents set us up, all of their children up to be, you know, to basically to end their lives, right? Because that's the way that they were. They were both suicidal, and they were both talking about killing themselves all the time. And so, you know, that's what I knew as a child, was like, well, you know, go ahead and kill me, and if you don't, I will. That was my motto. You know what I mean? I lived by it. It was my code, you know. And that's a sad place to be. It actually, you know, gave me sort of a tough attitude. And a lot of people thought it was cool that I was like that. You know, and a lot of my friends were like, well, you look at you, you know. And what they didn't realize was how seriously screwed up I was. You know what I mean? And some of my friends who were abused they knew. But there was lots of other people that I knew that didn't realize how completely screwed up I was, you know. And I certainly, you know, it's taken me everything that I have, obviously, to get here, right now, today. And it's not an easy road. And if I would have known to reach out a long time ago and get help, if I would have been able to convince myself, you know, that I needed to get help, you know, a little sooner, I think I would have been a lot better off, you know. Like, I wish I would have done this really honestly in my 20s, you know, when I first of all, got off the drugs and just, you know, broke the whole cycle of abuse by really not allowing my parents to abuse me and not getting into an abusive relationship with anybody. But I was still suicidal. I was still, you know, thinking, oh, I could end it. I could be out of this pain. Oh, so I didn't even think that I could get help until 4.5 years ago, when I was sitting on the couch, you know, ready to kill myself for self-injury. You know, I was just like, why am I still doing this? Like, how many years am I going to do this? Like, that was the question. And as soon as I started asking the questions, that's when I started to realize that I needed help, you know. And then I thought, hey, I'm going to get help. You know, it just occurred to me at the age of like 41 years old. I was like, almost 42. I was like, I'm going to get help. Wow, what a novel idea. You know? I was like 42 years old. Hey, I can get help, you know. It's like, you know, after watching two of my brothers kill themselves, you know what I mean, and then watching my family just be destroyed, it just occurred to me that, hey, I don't have to be destroyed. I don't have to die in this miserable existence. I don't have to continue on what my parents started, which was me killing myself or letting somebody else kill me or dying of a drug overdose. This is what my parents gave us. Thank you very much for the gifts of death and hell and destruction. I don't have to accept those gifts. You know, I'm like, no way, I don't have to do this. I can get help. You know, I'm just like everybody else. I have every opportunity to get help. Why am I not doing it? So the questions really led to my healing journey, right? And these inner children are so much better off today, let me tell you. My inner self from so long ago. So make sure you get help. Do not allow yourself to be destroyed. by your past, and do not allow yourself to lose this battle. I call it a battle because it really is. It's a battle for life. Do not give it up. Do not throw it away. Get some help, whatever kind it is. Do not allow yourself to be destroyed, and don't allow yourself to lose this fight. Like, we so deserve to win and be standing in the winner's circle at the end. Because we so deserve it. We so deserve so much better, right? But it won't happen if we don't start the ball rolling ourselves. So we have to get help, right? So whatever it is, whatever you decide to do. But if you can't cope, you make sure you just do the right thing. Phone a crisis line, phone a good friend, but do not give up. Not ever, right? It's not an option. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk to you real soon. Thanks for being here. Take care.